The podcast you are about to listen to contains at least one of the following: strong language, disturbing topics, abusive opinions, generally things that aren't appropriate for little kids or overly sensitive people. So, if any of that stuff's going to get your nose out of joint, this is your chance to turn it off. Welcome to I Had to Say It, the podcast where I not only say the things I need to say, but the things I think you need to hear. And your feelings, they're not a factor. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of I Had to Say It. So we're going to start out by saying, as we do, to Josh B. Word, Iceman, Jason, Miss Aaron, Mike Tabby, Heavy R, Fitz McShane, El Jefe, El Devlin, El Morte, the guys at the Weathered Report, and Billy G. Thank you guys for the support. It means a lot to me. I really do appreciate it. And hopefully this weekend I'll be dropping another supporter exclusive. So, yeah, that's something to look forward to, I guess. So anyway, the big thing that's been rolling around in my mind this week is there's been a lot going on, and it's been a crazy week since the last episode, which is, we're kind of back to the norm for this year, I guess. And we are in an election year, so of course the doom criers are starting to cycle up, and all the typical stuff that is probably going to get ignored by the masses at this point, because after the whole COVID bullshit, we're all pretty well fed up. And so I've been thinking about that, and ultimately, it kind of seems like a lot of this stuff, the powers that be, the people that are in positions of authority, the people that are in positions of control, they're old, they're geriatric fucks, which I complain about plenty, but they don't learn. Time has not been their friend. They're not keeping up. Time is running out for the woolly mammoth. The Ice Age is coming to an end. Their bullshit really doesn't work, but they don't get it. Whether it's hubris, whether it's arrogance, whether it's just being out of fucking touch with reality, they keep going back to the same well. They keep going back to the same playbook. They don't seem to get that the people are fucking fed up. They don't seem to understand that people aren't going to just comply and go along with this bullshit. I mean, some will. Some always will. There's always people that are willing to be that person, that are willing to just knuckle under and go along to get along and just cave and do what they're told. And there's a lot of people out there that want to be told what to do. They want to be told what to think and what to feel. They may not necessarily realize it on a conscious level, but it's there. It's in their general demeanor, their bearing, their way they carry themselves, how they live their lives. It is a lack of independence, a lack of autonomy, a lack of self-confidence and self-worth that allows them to go out and be their own fucking person. They have to wait for the next big thing. They have to wait for the next instruction. They have to wait for the next trend, the next vibe, the next whatever it is. And it's definitely showing. And a lot of stuff's been going on, and some of it I had some real significant thoughts about. Some of my thoughts actually got derailed by current events right before I sat down to record this shit. So I will be talking about that too. Now, one of the things, and this has been a conspiracy theorist staple for years, is the one world order, new world order, one world government, Davos, the WEF, all this shit that all ties together. And Agenda 2030 is a whole plan where they're supposed to be reducing the population, and they're going to be taking over and establishing a one world government, and all the adrenochrome imbibing pedophiles are all going to get together and just come forth and seize control of the world. And depending on how deep down that rabbit hole you want to go and how much you want to actually buy into it. Do I believe that there's a global cabal of elitists trying to control the world? Yes, I do. Do I believe at some point they're going to come out of the shadows and say, here we are, we're your masters, and you're going to do what we say because that's the only way you're going to live? I mean, maybe they're getting that arrogant. Maybe they're getting that comfortable. I don't think it's going to go the way that they would assume it would. The way that someone in that position would have to assume it's going to go for them to be comfortable to do it instead of maintaining control from the shadows. I mean, granted, they've gotten bigger in their britches lately, and they seem to be more and more blatant with the bullshit they're pulling. But I really still believe there are enough people on this earth that would not just lay down and fucking take it. And something that has been known for a long time. I mean, it's not something most of the authority figures will talk about, and it's not something that a lot of people are willing to say because it's a conversation that leads to dangerous territory. But we're in the days where if you're not willing to kind of tread into the dangerous territory, you're gonna wind up in a bad position. Now, it's how do you get there that that matters? Do you wind up in a bad position because you were compliant and you went along with things and that's just the way it worked out? Or do you wind up in a bad position because you stood up, tried to do something, and made a stand? And a lot of it just boils down to, how do you want to go out? Because if these theories are true, we are going to be seeing a lot of people taken out. And the CDC here in the U.S. is now talking about this upcoming bird flu pandemic, which could be up to 25% lethality and all. And, you know, the thing I talked about last week, where maybe that's the plan, is to have the vaccinations that nobody will take that would be resistant to the government, because that's how they're going to call the population. They put out a virus that wasn't as lethal to make people distrustful of vaccinations, and now they will put out a much more lethal strain to make people more willing to die. Now, if this does become a global pandemic and it has a 25% lethality rate, which is extremely huge numbers for pretty much any kind of viral outbreak. So we call the world's population by 2 billion fucking people. Would that be enough to satisfy the people that are depopulists and want to go back, you know, a couple hundred years in regression on our population levels to try and save the planet, and all the green cult whack jobs who want to do this? Who knows? Maybe, maybe not. We'll have to see how it plays out. Of course, it plays out in an election year, because without another lockdown and without mail-in ballots and all this other stuff, it's a lot harder to cheat the fucking people. Now, I think, honestly, that people are going to lose regardless of who wins, but that's neither here nor there. And kind of like the guys on Whiskey Hell say, you know, when you see all this stuff in the media, all this bullshit that's going on, what is it they're trying to distract you from? Because if anything, the last 5 years have taught us that mainstream media is not your friends. They're mouthpieces for the government, and they're functionally distractions. If they are trying to show you one thing, it's to distract you from something else. So you always got to look at what else is going on and try and look at things like the bigger picture. And there's a lot of things going on, like in the last week and some change, 10 days, we'll call it, maybe 11 days. There have been more cases of political upheaval. I think at this point it's 9 or a dozen countries have flat out rejected the WEF and their WHO global viral outbreak treaties and all this other shit, saying they will not cede control to a non-governmental agency, an external agency. And there have been blowback in a lot of these countries. There was an attempted coup in Turkey. The prime minister of Slovakia was basically, they attempted to assassinate somebody in Slovakia. He got shot. The Serbian president got assassinated. There's a couple more coups. There was one in Congo, one somewhere else. I can't remember off the top of my head. And then just right now, the Iranian president and one of the foreign minister were in a helicopter that crashed into a hill or a mountain, however you want to look at it, because of fog and poor visibility, and it hasn't even been 48 hours, and the conspiracy theories are out. The every fucking different angle you could imagine tied into the Iranian president and the foreign minister dying, because that's basically where we're at. They've seen no signs of the body in the wreckage. It's pretty much a given. I think they've actually officially announced it at this point that the guy's dead. There's no signs of life in the crash. They sent a bunch of search and rescue people out, and they found nothing. No signs of life, just wreckage from the fucking helicopter. And so now the conspiracies start coming out. All the different talking heads have their theories and their approaches, and you've got people saying, oh well, it must have been Israel, and oh well, it must have been the CIA, it must have been it was this group, it was that group, it was so and so. One of my favorite ones I've actually heard, I haven't heard it a lot, but I did read it a couple of places, where they were saying that the Iranian president was killed by the Ayatollah. Now, and for some of us older millennial, early Gen X, mid to late Gen X, anybody that's listening to the show, when you say Ayatollah, it's Ayatollah Khomeini is the Iranian. The Ayatollah has been a name that has been in our vocabulary since the 80s at least. But the thing about Ayatollah is it's not a political office. It can be depending on how tied into things, but that is actually a religious leader And the Ayatollah in Iran has been calling for war with Israel. So this would actually be a ideal situation for, oh, look, the Iranian president and the foreign minister were killed by this crash, and it was facilitated by the Israelis. Now this Ayatollah will be able to rally the people because he is a leader, he's a religious leader, but he's still a leader in that country. And he could rally the people behind the idea that this was perpetrated by the Israeli government to get the war he's been clamoring for weeks and months. Years, really. I mean, it's no secret that those two particular groups of people have never really been on friendly terms. And, it is what it is. It's a giant clusterfuck of an affair. And, I mean, these things go in patterns, and it's actually way too easy when you get that tinfoil tied too tight that you see patterns that aren't actually there, and you get the idea in your head that it's like those memes with you got the big board with all the strings and the crazy fucking bugged out hair and bugged out eyes, and you're trying to make connections that aren't necessarily there, but this shit is all happening like rapid fire in the span of, like I said, 10 days, maybe 2 weeks at the outside. We'll call it 10 to 14 days. And it's really, we're living in crazy times. We're living in chaotic times. We have, again, these cabals of wealthy elitist motherfuckers. You've got Bill Gates who's out here talking about genetically modifying cows so they don't fart so much to help save the environment. This cocksucker has bought up literally hundreds of thousands of acres of land, of farmland, and he's, trying to push fake meat and telling people to eat bug protein and all this other shit. And I would like to reiterate something I've said before. This guy is not some fucking genius. When he's pushing the vaccinations, he's not a medical doctor. He's not a scientist. He's not a doctor, period. He just doesn't even have a science degree that makes him a doctorate. I'm not saying he's not a reasonably bright guy, but a lot of his success was predicated on being a good salesman, on working good deals to put his product in place. And it wasn't even the superior operating system of the day, but he got the deals worked out with the companies. And that's how he built his company and built his fucking fortune. And he didn't even develop the software himself. He was involved with other guys. He got this software as part of a group and went forward from there. And that's what successful business people do. They aren't necessarily able to do everything themselves. After you get to a certain level, you hire a team. You buy the products. You source the work to other people. And you put forth your capital and you predicate your success. And yeah, I'm not saying he's completely undeserving of his success, but he's not some demagogue who should be idolized at the level of, well, he says this, so it must be right because he's a super smart fucking guy. No, this is a guy who has been advocating cutting down trees to reduce carbon. It's not how it fucking works. There was a time when a fucking third grader could tell you this. Now, since the public education system is basically just designed to churn out fucking useful idiot drones, those days are all well and behind us. And it's realistically, these are the things that I think about when I'm sitting here and I'm having my freaking brain burn moments where I'm sitting here listening to these morons spout this bullshit. And I ask myself, why do people go along with it? Why are people falling for this shit? Why are people so fucking stupid? And then I remember, oh yeah, it's been cultivated for generations at this point that people be this fucking stupid. And that kind of segues into the whole, the educational system failing people can actually be summed up really nicely by the whole concept of it's that time of year where we're graduating, we're having graduations. And a couple weeks ago, I talked about how the college kids that were graduating this year, the ones that are losing their graduations because of all these obnoxious commie fucks that are protesting for Palestine, even though they know fuck all about Palestine. They just know that one of their whiny liberal professors told them that this is what they're supposed to be protesting on behalf of because they're freedom fighters and they need to be supported and liberated, and fucking retards. But anyway, there were a couple of things that happened over this weekend involving college commencement ceremonies for graduations. Involving speakers, a little bit of controversy behind one, and the other one I just want to talk about for a minute. Now, the one that the controversy is now the kicker for the Kansas City Chiefs, Harrison Butker. He was the speaker invited to speak at a college graduation ceremony, and he is taking all kinds of shit now because his speech was basically espousing traditional values, saying that women should be wives and mothers and men should be caretakers and providers, and all the woke shit needed to stop, and basically more or less a bunch of Christian, Catholic, conservative values. Now, this shouldn't really be a problem because he was speaking at a Catholic college graduation. So ideologically kind of aligns with his personal belief structure. So it really isn't that outlandish of a concept. Now, somehow media picked up his speech. I'm sure there were some fucking idiot indoctrinated leftist assholes because it's a college campus and they're everywhere. They're like fucking, just parasites. They turn up in every fucking one of these colleges. And it came out that he gave this speech, and since he gave the speech, the left has immediately begun calling for his cancellation. There's a online petition to have him removed as the kicker from the Chiefs. And like a former Chiefs cheerleader came out and just tried to check him, and it was just like the cringiest, just most, shut your empty head, you little bitch. You're telling him to stay in his lane. He was a Catholic speaking at a Catholic college graduation. He couldn't have been any more in his fucking lane if he tried. And that's the reaction coming out of the left. These stupid, mouth-breathing, self-righteous, sanctimonious cockstains who seem to think that the only people that should be allowed to have a voice is the people they fucking agree with. And they immediately fall into their default mode. This guy needs to be canceled. We need to take away his livelihood. We need to take away his entire life because he said something we don't agree with. He said something we don't believe in. He said something that goes against the horseshit narrative we are trying to push. And how dare he speak on behalf of traditional values and things we don't agree with. And we are going to ruin him and destroy him because he publicly said these things and we think they are wrong and bad. And this is why I can't stand the fucking left, especially the far left. The people that are closer to me on the left, like I used to be considered a leftist because I didn't give a shit about gay people and who you wanted to marry. As long as you're fucking with another adult and you're not hurting anybody, I don't care. If you want to do drugs and you're not hurting anybody and you're not robbing motherfuckers to get your fucking fix, I don't care. And that used to make me a left-leaning individual. But since you keep moving the fucking bar, I am now considered a fucking radical rightist to all of these cunt stains that think they're fucking the future of the country and the world's going to fall in line with them because they're all brainwashed into believing ideological fallacies that have never worked in practice anywhere in the world, but they somehow have this mindset of, that's because they didn't do it right, and we'll get socialism right when we do it because... No, you're using a fucked up scenario to try and perpetrate something that is unnatural and doesn't fucking work because human nature is not conducive to this bullshit. And the people who are telling you it is are the motherfuckers that are going to control you because you are a fucking smooth-brained sack of shit. But I digress. That's the thing. I mean, I'm not particularly right-leaning. I don't... All the, traditional values and all this other stuff that this guy's espousing, it doesn't bother me. I don't have a problem with that's how you want to live your life that fucking way. I'm not gonna necessarily say it's strictly ideal for everyone, but that's me. I'll never push the narrative that there's a one-size-fits-all solution to how life should be fucking lived beyond the concept of live your best life and leave everybody else the fuck alone. And it's amazing how fast some people, and it happens on the right and the left, both sides are fucking guilty of this, are willing to start crying about how they are the ones trying to defend freedoms and liberties and rights, when both sides do the exact same bullshit, just with a different lean to it. So they're all fucking hypocrites. Every last one of them. If you're ultra right or you're ultra left, you're a fucking hypocrite. That's all there is to it. Because the idea behind conservatism is supposed to be that you don't want things to change, and a lot of this shit needs to go. It's just the way it is. But I digress. So, yeah, he goes out, gives his speech, stays in his lane at a school where his general philosophy should have been appreciated and welcomed. And again, like I said, the ultra-left goop. I mean, the fact that, like, fucking George Takei is out here trying to amplify this protest or this petition to fucking have him fired. And realistically, let's be honest, it's got like 200,000 signatures or something on it right now online. They're not real signatures. There's not real people. And I'm willing to bet they're not motherfucking football fans. As a general rule, far leftist assholes don't watch contact sports. It's not their venue. I don't know what change they think they're going to impress. Like, well, we're going to not watch your sport harder now. I mean, fuck you, you sanctimonious, self-righteous fucking douchebags. You're self-important. You're way too convinced of your own fucking worth, and none of you are really all that goddamn special, even though your parents might have told you were. Maybe that's what's wrong with you. Or maybe your parents were fucking first cousins and your brain doesn't have enough fucking wrinkles on it, you fucking saps. But that's not even the thing that I found the most offensive about college graduation ceremonies this week. The other thing that happened actually had involved good old Sleepy as fucking self. And Sleepy was invited to be the commencement speaker at a graduation. And it was a graduation at Morehouse University. Now, the reason I find this whole thing irksome, to say the least, is if you are unaware of it, Morehouse is a predominantly and traditionally black university, right? It's not realistically the kind of place where you want the guy who wrote the crime bill to throw more African-American men in prison than anybody up to that, who has said countless racist things on the microphone, who had a Klansman who he admitted and stated that he looked up to as a hero and eulogized when the fucker died. Well, then he goes to Morehouse and he starts talking about how, you know, when he was graduating from law school, that's when one of his heroes, Dr. King, was killed, and Delaware was a slave state, which he's ashamed to admit, but there were National Guard patrols, and he goes on and on with all this bullshit. And then he proceeds to race bait and fucking push more divisive horseshit. You know, talking about, well, what's democracy if black men are being killed in the street and broken promises still leave black communities behind? What is a democracy if you have to be 10 times better than anybody else? And just all this DEI bullshit and pathetic fucking race baiting at what was, and probably still is, because they didn't have to do DEI bullshit. They had to actually, being a predominantly black college, all they had to do was keep doing what they were doing. They didn't have to worry about any quotas or anything. So they actually got to pick people based on merit, not just checking a fucking box. So realistically, they're probably churning out better students, although I really doubt they're not completely leftist, communist, indoctrinated better students. But I'm saying from a purely academic standpoint, they're probably a better grade of student than a lot of the other colleges are getting, because they can be pickier. They can afford to be choosy about who they let in the door. But again, I digress. That's not really the problem. I don't have a problem with the college existing. I don't have a problem with how they're running the things, other than the general disdain I have for higher education in this country at this point, because I really don't think it's about education. I think it's about indoctrination. It's about creating the fucking useful little fucking drones that they want to keep manipulating people that think they're better than the working man, but they're realistically not producing shit. And we've got enough people that need to sit around and tell us how wrong we are and how bad we are just for being us and being things that are beyond our own control. And then you have the President of the United States going in there and just race baiting the ever-loving fuck out of the entire graduating class, telling them basically that all their hard work and accomplishments are meaningless because they're still second-class citizens, telling them that without Big Daddy government there to hold their hand and make sure they get their fair shake, that they're fucked. So realistically, I mean, and again, maybe it's just because it's me, but I would be insulted as shit if this crotchety old white racist motherfucker came in and kind of pissed all over everything I had worked for all those years. And I'm sure the leftist assholes out there, oh, that's not what he was doing. He was talking about reality and you don't know anything about this and da-da-da-da-da. Well, seeing as thanks to the DEI policies and the ridiculous affirmative action bullshit that's been put in place, which, by the way, has probably impacted like white women more than any other group, just because they get to go out there and feel special because they're championing for the poor and pissed upon right now. But again, I digress. I don't like to make things about race. It fucking irritates me because it's stupid. It's weak-minded to look at those factors, but ultimately, at the end of the day, the bullshit of it is being kept alive by politicians and fucking, race jockeys that are out here hustling this shit because it keeps them from having to actually, do anything real. Because for a while, and I'm so frustrated that it has become such a massive issue at this point, because it seemed like it was going away, and it was fucking phenomenal. It was fantastic. Racism was on fucking life support because, and I'm saying this from the perspective of a Gen Xer, we just didn't fucking care for the most part. Now, of course, there's always exceptions. There's always the people out there that are going to be like just no matter how they look at it, you're not going to change their minds. It's always, race is a big, super important issue and however they look at things. And if you're one of those people, and me saying that I think it's fucking stupid offends you, well, you know where the skip button is. You're more than welcome to turn this shit off. It's not like I need this. You're not going to fucking be getting rid of my sponsors if I don't have enough streams, because I don't have any sponsors outside of, these other small independent businesses who are friends and supporters of the show. It's not like you can't affect my advertising revenue. I'm not beholden to anybody, so you're more than welcome to go fuck yourself. Grow up, get over that little tiny fucking curb, and start judging people on things that are actually their responsibility instead of shit they had no control over. I forgot where I was going with this. Oh, yeah, so crotchety old white guy comes in, race baits, and tells a bunch of black guys that just graduated from college that they're still dependent on Big Daddy government's going to keep them safe and make sure they get their fair shake because they can't actually do it on merit. And even though most of these guys probably can do it on merit, there's always going to be that asterisk to everything they accomplish as long as these assholes are allowed to run things the way they do, because regardless of your accomplishment, regardless of your skill set, if these quotas exist and these regulations exist and these things to quote unquote level the playing field, which actually do the exact opposite and take it from being tilted one way to being tilted the fucking other, when you remove meritocracy from the equation, which is another one of those things of overreaching government influence on capitalism, which is when the fucking stupid commie college fucks start bitching about how capitalism is a failure, then you ask them to name one thing that is not regulated, influenced, taxed, and controlled by the fucking government, and they can't fucking do it. So you say, how's that capitalism? And then they look at you like a fucking dog that's trying to figure out where the ball that you cocked back and then threw your arm forward went when the ball's still in your fucking hand. I mean, these are not critically thinking people. These are not realistic individuals. They are fucking educated idiots. They are fucking dummies. And they're easily distracted, easily misled, and when you confront them with facts and things, you become an ist or a phobe or whatever it is. So, since I'm saying people should be out here being judged on their skills, their capabilities, and their qualifications, I must be a racist motherfucker because I don't want to make sure that the white guys are fucking hampered because they have an unfair advantage because they're fucking white. Well, I'm fucking white. I'm fucking $40,000 in debt, and I'm not making nearly enough money to offset this in any kind of real meaningful way because inflation is pissing away the little tiny chunk of my check that the government allows me to keep. My grocery bill has tripled in the last year, just like pretty much everybody else's. So whatever this "it's so great to be fucking white" stuff is, I'd love to know it because since people basically make all these assumptions about me because I'm a big bald white fuck, I really don't see where the privilege or the advantage comes in. So maybe if somebody wants to enlighten me into that and explain to me how wrong-headed I am for thinking people should be judged based on their skill and proficiency instead of, all this shit they have literally no control over in their lives, why people need a certain fucking way. And it goes both ways. I don't think white people should be getting preferential treatment. I don't think black people should be getting preferential. I don't think Asians, fucking Native Americans, Latinos, fucking anybody. None of y'all. Nobody deserves any kind of thing based on shit they have no fucking control over. We should only be judging people based on the shit they actually have a say in their lives. Do you have skills? Do you have discipline? Do you have self-control? Or are you some whiny, puling, fucking juvenile, infantile, emotional sack of shit that is incapable of functioning as an actual adult? And realistically, that is sorely lacking in today's day and age, and it's frustrating, and I am tired. I'm weary. I am exhausted by the dinosaurs, the geriatric fucks, and the weak-minded simps they control that keep perpetuating this nonsense and kicking this fucking can down the road, where they are out here just bolstering and holding up this dying institution that should be long fucking gone. We should have evolved past this stupid fucking nonsense to begin with by now. We should be more advanced as this. I mean, we should be looking at shit from a Star Trek perspective at this point. We should be evolving and growing and getting smarter and better. And instead, we've got a few notable exceptions and a whole bunch of motherfuckers that are backsliding every fucking day. And it's talked about it before. It's the pendulum effect. You go one direction and then you go way too far in the other direction to compensate, where you're actually back to being where you fucking started. You don't even fucking realize it because you're a smooth-brained fuck who spent $140,000 for a degree in fucking gender studies, and then you want to bitch about why you can't find a job to get out of debt, and you need the country to pay your fucking college loans off so you can go out and live your best life, because it's not your fault you did something fucking dumb. It's the world's fault for letting you do it. And that's just the entitled horseshit attitude. And again, it's about manipulation. It's about control. It's about keeping the dumb fucks in a line, which is why they have to push division. They have to keep us at each other's throats. They have to keep us blaming each other for everything that's wrong so we don't blame the people that are actually causing the fucking problems. And it bothers me that it's not more apparent to fucking people. And even the people, not all the people, obviously. There's always exceptions. If you're listening to me, I assume you're one of the exceptions, not one of the fucking drones. But it's people on both sides. There are people that have this myopic way of looking at life where they can see it being done to other people. They can call it out for being done to other people and not realize they're just on the other side of the same fucking coin because they're doing the same shit just with a different fucking lean to it. We need to do better. We need to be better. We need to get our shit together. We need to start putting these old cocksuckers out to pasture. We need to start holding their feet to the fucking fire. We need to start taking away their ability to do this shit to us. And we can't do that through fucking hate and ignorance and intolerance and all the other fucking bullshit they're trying to foster. We have to do it through compassion and understanding and fucking just being a decent fucking human being. It's really not that goddamn hard. All you have to say is, hey, as long as you let me live my best life, I'll let you live yours. I may not agree with it, but I don't have to live your life. I only have to live my own. And if we could get that real basic fucking understanding of how things are supposed to work drilled into more people's heads, we'd be in a better position. We'd be harder to manipulate. I know that may seem odd, but it's a realistic fact. If we could get to the point where people were just content to leave their own lives their own fucking way and let other people be the fuck alone, it would be next to impossible for somebody to come along and tell you that, hey, you know what? You need to worry about what this guy's doing, because if he's living his best life and it doesn't align with your best life, then you can't be happy because he's not living your way. Well, who gives a fuck? I mean, seriously, you dumb mouth-breathing fuck stains. How fucking hard is it to just leave people the fuck alone? But there's just so many weak-minded fucks out there that can't do that. And then you couple that with the fucking dipshit third world motherfuckers that are basically flooding every civilized country in the world right now and overrunning them because the civilized mouth breathers have been conditioned to be fucking sheep. And then you got a bunch of fucking people coming in who don't have that mentality, who don't see things that way, and who are not going to live according to your fucking standards, no matter how strongly you feel that you should be compassionate and understand them and support them. And you want to make sure you're not being judged as an ist or a phobe or an it, and you need to make sure they will respect you because you are going to show them gentleness and kindness. No, the fuck they're not. Because they're savages. They're there to take what you want. And no matter how bad you feel about thinking that way, deep down you kind of know it's true. Because otherwise, murder rates wouldn't be spiking all over the fucking civilized world. Violent crime would not be going on. Rapes would not be going through the ceilings. People wouldn't be thinking it's okay to fucking be driving around in rape vans and abducting women and children and doing horrible fucking things to them because these are a bunch of fucking third world fucking savage men who realistically think that because it's something they want, because they're strong enough to take it, they can have it. So it doesn't matter how advanced and how evolved you think you are, that you don't think the world works that way, because that just makes you a victim. And it's, I mean, fuck, I guess for now that's what I had to say. Thanks for listening to another episode, guys. If you liked what you heard, leave a comment, leave a review, leave a rating. Go to ihadtosayitpodcast.com, sign up for the mailing list, interact with the show. Click the links, sign up for the Patreon, join the Discord, come and interact, be a part of the show, buy the merch, support your favorite creator, or support me. Anyway, thanks for listening, guys. Till next time.